Yo, what is up everybody? Chris here from Fake Sports News, back at it again with another video. Today I'm going to bring you guys a recap of what happened during today's matches, that of course being day 3 of the CDL Major 1, that being the CDL Pro-Am, as well as giving you guys a preview of what to expect going into today's matches your time, that of course being Championship Sunday of the CDL. So without further ado, let's take a quick look at the series that we had today. We of course had the Las Vegas Legion taking on the Minnesota Rocker. You guys know I was expecting the Rocker to walk away with that one. More on that in a minute. We had the LA Thieves taking on the Mutineers. You guys know I was expecting the Thieves to possibly walk away with a 3-0, more than likely, and they did. Then we had Faze taking on Toronto Ultra. You guys know I was expecting Faze to walk away with that one pretty convincingly because I said Toronto hadn't played any teams that really communicated confidence to me. And then in the next series, we of course had the New York Subliners taking on the Seattle Surge. You guys know I was expecting New York to win, so that was a big time upset. And then in the next series, of course, we had the Toronto Ultra taking on the LA Thieves. You guys know I was thinking Ultra to make it all the way through. And then in the last series of the day, I was not expecting Subliners to fall, so I actually had the Surge beating the Legion in this series. But anyways, the Subliners made it through. So looking at our first matchup of the day, we of course had the Minnesota Rocker taking on the Vegas Legion. And it was a 3-2 in favor of the Legion. They clutched up big time in round 11. They went down 5-4 in the last map to bring it all the way to round 11 and to get the win. And honestly, Afro was the only player on Minnesota who looked good. Everybody else just had a rough series, and they were just getting put in the blender by Donnie Temp. Yes, sir. My man was making it rain, make it rain. He's the MVP of the game. Come on, man. Put some respect on Temp's name. He went crazy today. So happy to see the Legion getting these dubs. They had a top 6 finish at the event, the best finish that they've had since 2020. Happy to see that. These guys are absolutely turning the franchise around, and you love to see it. So looking at map 1, Embassy Hardpoint, it was 250 to 136 in favor of the Rocker. They just outslayed Legion and outplayed them the entire way through. Bance was the man of the map here with 24 and 16. Looking at our map 2 on Hotel, of course that being a S&D, the Legion were able to even it up behind strong performances from Prolute and Temp, 10 and 3 and 8 and 3 respectively. So great showing from the Legion. Their S&D was top-notch this weekend. In the map 3 on Fortress, this was a control. The Legion just put them in the trap. Temp was going absolutely nutty. He was shutting everything down from the Rocker side, and the Legion just looked great in this control. And they're honestly becoming a team that has to be taken very seriously in control, because even when they weren't winning controls, they were definitely pushing teams to the brink, and they were game planning pretty hard. So the Legion are definitely a team to watch out for on map 3s going forward, and they're just a really strong team overall. And then the game for Fortress Hardpoint, they ran it back, and this time Rocker put Legion in the spawn trap for the majority of the game, and that's reflected in the KDs. So Rocker just had their get back. Afro went absolutely ham, and he was the man of the map here. Then in the game 5, El Asilo S&D, this has been Vegas's map all weekend long. This is where they really started to turn heads and make the rest of the fandom realize that Vegas Legion are different from Paris Legion. It is not the same team, not same management, and not same players at all. So looking at the Vegas Legion side, everybody did their thing. TJ had a little bit of a rough game, but it didn't really matter. Temp was 11 and 6, Clay was 10 and 7, and Prolute was 7 and 6. So the other 3 on his team picked up the slack. They got the job done, and they won in a game 5. The crowd went crazy. Everybody loved it. I loved it. Always love to see Donnie Temp get a win, and I'm really happy to see that this Legion team is definitely one that will stay in the top 6 if nothing crazy happens. Looking at our second match of the day, we had the LA Thieves taking on the Mutineers, and honestly Havoc was the only one who had a decent series in terms of the overall stats. Everybody on the LA Thieves side went positive, so that's really good for them going into the rest of the season. Just some small things that they need to really pick up on and really be more cognizant of in specific maps, and they'll be fine. So small mistakes, but LA Thieves had a great showing this event. And looking at the map 1, it was 250 to 230 on Embassy Hardpoint in favor of the LA Thieves. LA Thieves were able to clutch up big time behind strong performances from Octane and Envoy. Envoy, what wasn't this man doing on this map? I mean, he got the game sealing, I think, 2-piece to close out the map, so he was just all over the place and he was doing his thing. Great to see that for him. Game 2, Embassy S&D. The Thieves looked even better than they did yesterday in S&D in the series against Mutineers. Drozba was 12 and 5, and Envoy was 8 and 6. They were the men of the map. In the map 3, Hotel Control, not Hardpoint, The Thieves were able to win 3-1. They just dominated really the entire time. Major Maniac and Vehicle just had a rough series, and then Kenny, Octane, and Envoy were all cooking, so what can be said there other than they were cooking? And that's the series, 3-0, and I don't really want to go too far in depth. It was just a very quick series. Looking at our next series, this was really one of the biggest series of the day. We had Toronto taking on Atlanta Faze. Abizi dropped to 0.83 and Slasher dropped to 0.93, and they still somehow won. Cell dropped to 1.42 and Simp dropped to 1.25 with 85 kills in the series, so Simp was just all over the map, getting a ton of kills and going crazy. On the Ultra side, the only player that went really positive was Insight. He actually went positive by a wide margin, plus 15, and he was the only player on the team who was consistently playing really well. So looking at the map one, that of course being Hotel Hardpoint, it went 250 and 191 in favor of Atlanta Faze. You guys know I was expecting Faze to walk away with this one. I said that based on the fact that Poyodrome took Ultra to a Game 5 and Optic got 3-0'd by Ultra, and then they lost in Game 5 to Mutineers, who got absolutely stomped 3-0 by Thieves earlier today. I didn't know that was going to happen, but I had a feeling that Thieves were going to manhandle them and prove that Toronto hadn't really played anybody formidable yet. And this was proven in the series. The Hotel Hardpoint went strongly in favor of Faze. They were in control the entire time, and they coasted to victory here. Selim had a 1.38, Simp had a 1.14, and so did Abizi. And those are the men of the map on the Faze side. On the Ultra side, the only sign of encouragement was Sandy's strong performance, dropping a 1.11. Then on the map 2, S&D, Abizi went 13-6. He's got double digits at least 3 times this weekend. The guy's been frying in Surge. And Simp went 7-3. They were the men of the map for Faze. They were doing everything. And Insight was trying to do his best. He went 11-6, but close but no cigar. On the map 3, Control on Hotel, Ultra was able to get the reverse sweep in the Control behind strong performances from, of course, Insight and Standy. So Standy and Insight were really doing their thing. Kleenex was super consequential toward the end of the game. And yeah, I mean, Ultra just looked great. Abizi and Slasher just had a rough go of it after the first 2 rounds. They just kept getting put in the blender. Cell and Simp were trying to do everything they could, but Faze just got outclassed here. In the game for Hardpoint on Hydro, of course, Slasher had a 1.21. Cell went 23-12, and Simp went 23-16. So those two were just having. Slasher was having. Abizi had a rough one, but it didn't really matter. Faze was just so far ahead by a certain point that the game was just done and dusted. They were getting rotations. They were getting kills in rotation. They were playing spawns well. They were playing... I mean, it was just a masterclass. So that's a 3-1 in favor of Faze. I have faith that they will win the entire tournament at this point, and we'll get into that in a second. Looking at our next matchup, we of course had the New York Subliners take on the Seattle Surge for our last winners bracket final spot. And as you guys can see, the Surge massively upset the Subliners. They beat them 3-1. Looking at the stats, Skies and Hydra were the only 2 players for the Subliners who really did well. And on the other side, Pred was the man of the match for the Seattle Surge. And Mac and Accuracy were pretty close to being even, so everybody's doing their job. Of course, looking at the map 1 on Hotel, this went in favor of the Subliners because Skies was absolutely going nuts. He had a 1.63, and Kiz and Hydra, the sub duo, were playing a great supporting role with matching 1.16 KDs. The S&D on Embassy went 6-2 in favor of the Surge. The Surge looked really comfortable on this Embassy S&D. This was honestly the first S&D that I've seen them look super, super dominant in against a team that actually is good at S&D. So this was a great showing for the Surge, and it's very encouraging going into tomorrow, going against a team like Atlanta Faze that is undefeated in S&D. Looking at the side of the Surge, of course, everybody with the exception of Mac went positive. Accuracy 7-2, Pred 10-5, Sib 8-5. You're not winning the map if guys are dropping bombs like that. Looking at the map 3, Control on El Estilo. This was a super controversial map. Hydra actually, his controller disconnected as they were pushing towards the point. It was a 5v2 in round 5. And realistically, he would have hopped over the banister, stunned Pred where he was sitting in the point, and he probably would have gotten him dead with a nade. He probably would have killed him with the Semtex, excuse me. So I don't agree with the map not being, or the round not being replayed. I feel like it should have, but I guess the ruling said that it didn't need to be replayed. It just moved on as it was. So looking at the Seattle Surge side, Pred and Sib, the guys who I keep telling you to look out for as the men of every map and match for Seattle Surge, went crazy. Pred had a 1.39 with 32 kills, and Sib had a 1.29 with 31 kills. So these guys were just going nuts. they were in their bag, and they were the people who won the map for them. And then on Fortress Hardpoint Game 4, this of course being New York's strongest map and mode combination in terms of just their overall performance and comfort, Seattle absolutely starched them 250 to 213 behind strong performance from Pred. Pred was absolutely having bad 2 pieces, 3 pieces, you name it, he did it. He single-handedly drowned them out. Super corny, I'm sorry. I know using the team's tagline is super corny, but Pred was going crazy. He literally drowned them out himself, and he got up and he screamed at the end, and you know what, he should have, because he did that. And you know what, that was just a great performance from the Surge. It was an absolute masterclass. And you know what? They look really good going into today's matches, so don't bet against them. And then in our second to last matchup of the day, we of course had our losers semifinals, quarterfinals. Toronto Ultra taking on the LA Thieves after Ultra dropped to the loser side of the bracket after getting absolutely mollywopped by Faze. They had a really good rebound series. Insight with a 1.33, Standing with a 1.19, Scrap with a 1.17, and Kleenex with a 1.1. If everybody on the team is going positive, then you pretty much know what happened, right? Looking at the map 1 on Mercado, this was a hard point that went in favor of the LA Thieves. We all thought that this was going to be an interesting series, and we all knew that each map would be relatively close because both teams are pretty even in terms of slang and overall, I guess, capability at this point in the game. So, yeah, I mean, looking at the stats, you would think that the Toronto Ultra won it, right? I mean, Scrappy going -10 is the only thing that makes it clear as to why the Ultra lost, but they stayed in it until the last hill. And yeah, I believe it ended on Barbershop. Yeah, it ended on Barbershop. Thieves broke Barbershop. They got redemption from last night, the Barbershop break from hell, right? And yeah, they did their thing. So that was a really strong showing for the Thieves in map 1, and definitely is very encouraging that they're keeping all of their maps so close, but they'll figure something out in the future. Looking at the map 2, this went in favor of the Ultra, obviously, and Insight had a 12-6 performance, which is what willed them to this win, alongside Sandy, who had a 10-7 performance. The only player on the LA Thieves side to really put up a valiant effort was Octane with 9-7. It felt like he was all over the map and keeping Thieves in the map the entire time, and he definitely was. Looking at the Hotel Map 3 Control, that of course went in favor of the Ultra. As you can see, the Thieves were just getting outslayed the entire time. It felt like Ultra just had momentum the entire time that they played this map, and they looked more comfortable. They were getting top bed control, they were getting bottom bed control, they were breaking every bit of control that the Thieves had on attack, except for, I believe, 1 round, and their offense looked really good as well. So they just looked like a really complete team in control, and they looked to be one of the better control teams in this game just based on their performance this weekend. And then looking at the Game 4 hardpoint on Hotel, this is where the series ended, and Scrappy went absolutely nuts. He dropped a 40 bomb. He got the last, I think, 4 kills at the end, and I was in a call with my friends, and not to have a LeBron moment, but I said, when Scrappy was on 29, I was like, oh, he's going to drop 40, and he barely dropped 40, so that was really cool to see. He had the first 40 bomb of the year. He also has the highest kill record, I think. I think he beat his own record at 39. But now he has the kill record at 40 in hardpoint. We'll see if anybody can match it. Somebody will definitely match it or beat it. But pretty impressive. They dropped 40 and 23 for the W, and they won by 12 points. So it was a very close game. And Kleenex was not far behind with 34 and 31. So Scrappy and Kleenex went crazy. They dropped 74 kills. And that is how the Thieves were unfortunately sent home. The Thieves played really well, but the Ultra just kicked it into a different gear. Scrappy went absolutely nutty in that map 4. He went Ultra Instinct, and he finished the series with 8 more kills than the second player on his team behind him. And literally 3,000 more damage. Holy, this guy's different. We'll see how things go tomorrow, but more on that in a second. And then looking at our last matchup of the day, we had the Subliners taking on the newfound fan favorite, Vegas Legion. And Proloot was actually frying this series. Proloot has been the player that everyone has called on to be the X Factor for this Vegas Legion team. And as the X Factor, he did his thing, but the rest of the team just wasn't able to keep up with the slang of New York, and that's the difference that led to New York winning the series. Looking at the stats for the New York side, Skies had a 1.13, Priest had a 1.36. He's coming for that top spot on the KD leaderboard again, Skies. Watch your back. And Hydra had a 1.26, and then Kismet went even. So looking at the map 1, Hardpoint on Mercado. This, of course, went in favor of the subliners. They had a lot of pressure on the map, and they really kept their foot on the gas the entire time. Priest, as you guys can see, dropped 28 and 14, so he was just a speed demon on the map, and he was cooking. Same for Skies, he was right behind him with a 1.29, and Hydra was not far behind Priesta. He had a 28 and 21 score, KD, and a 1.33 KD. But Hydra, Priesta was just on another level in this series. I'll just say that right now. Looking at the Fortress S&D, of course, that being the map 2, Vegas was able to win the 6-4 behind super strong performance from Clayster. He was just all over the map doing his thing. I think he was sniping at one point, but it felt like Clay was like 2 people on the map at certain points. The guy was just all over the place, getting tons of kills in big moments and single-handedly closing rounds out for his team. He was supported by Proloot. Proloot dropped 9-6, and he had a great S&D as well, and he just had a great series overall. Looking at the New York subliner side, the only player to really go positive was Kismet in this map 2, and, it's just tough. Map 3, Control, went in favor of the subliners by a heavy margin. It was a 3-0 sweep. Skies was 12-9, Priest was 15-11, Kismet was 21-9, and Hydra was 19-15. Kismet was the man of the map here. He was just all over the place, top bed, bottom bed, didn't matter. Mid-map, the guy went on a 7 spree at one point. He was just having, and that's all that can be said there. It was Kismet's map. And then in the game 4 hardpoint on Hotel, they ran it back again. Yeah, the subliners just walked away with this one through strong performances from Hydra, Skies, and Priesta. Skies, of course, was the standout with a 1.29 KD. Higher KD than Hydra, but fewer kills. So do with that what you will. But Skies definitely fried. So did Hydra and so did Priesta. They played really good team Call of Duty. And definitely towards the end, when Priesta popped that 3-piece on TJ, I believe Temp and Clayster to close it out, it was crazy. So if you haven't seen that map, be sure to go back and watch it because it's definitely one of the crazier maps that we've had this year, and we've had some crazy ones. So here's the schedule for today. We, of course, kick things off with Seattle taking on Faze, and I think in this rematch, Faze win the rematch. They look to be the best team in the game right now. I hope this ages well. I hope this doesn't age like milk. But Faze look to be the best team in the game, and I have them walking away with this series with another 3-1. I think they are just in a different tier than Seattle just because there's no one on Faze who consistently isn't in the fight in the way that accuracy and Mac can be at times against other top teams. And I think that'll be the difference that allows Faze to get past Seattle in the winners final and book their ticket to the grand final. In elimination round 3, this is a really, really tough one to call. But based on some of the glaring weaknesses that I've seen in the Toronto Ultras game and their setups, I think New York subliners most likely take them out here. I feel like New York is in better form. They've had better practice against teams like Minnesota Rocker, and they've handled business all the way through. So with the exception of that series against the Surge, I do think New York will rebound tomorrow, and I think they beat Toronto, even though Toronto has looked to be the second best team this weekend. The loss to FaZe really showed a lot of weaknesses in their game, and Vegas was able to almost capitalize and upset because of those weaknesses. So, the Thieves were almost able to capitalize and upset because of those weaknesses. So, I don't know. Vegas pointed out a lot of weaknesses in Subliner's game, but I felt like Thieves definitely pointed out a lot of weaknesses in the Toronto Ultras game, and they made them look a lot more beatable after a really difficult loss to Atlanta FaZe, whereas the Subliners are playing a Vegas Legion team that were really heating up, and they were one of the best teams that we had in this tournament. It's hard to say. I'll give it 51% to New York, but I'll definitively say that New York is the team that I think gets through tomorrow, unless Toronto really kicks up and has an insane performance. So that means in my next series, I will have Toronto in my proposed bracket taking on the Seattle Surge. And personally, New York Subliners taking on the Seattle Surge. And personally, I think that the Surge are just a better team than these New York Subliners. When it comes down to it, I think the small mistakes that the Surge made are emblematic of a bigger issue with the matchup for the Subliners. I think there's just something about that AR duo of accuracy and Sib that plays a perfect foil to Priesta and Skies. I think it's just the fact that accuracy is so stationary where Skies is very mobile. And then Sib is like super fast paced, and I feel like he's the only player in this game who might be better than Priest in terms of raw skill right now. on the AR or on the flex roll. So honestly, I have Seattle walking away with this one. I think Seattle booked their ticket back to the grand final. I think that Faze win the tournament altogether, without a doubt, no matter who they end up playing tomorrow. But just based on what I saw today, let's look back at the stats very quickly. The way the Thieves were playing, the series really could have gone either way in many maps. Map 1 could have gone to either team. Map 2 was super close, but the Thieves could have realistically taken Hotel if they made a few clutches that they really had. Map 3, they got smoked, but Map 4, they definitely could have won it and forced it to a Game 5, and if it goes Game 5, who knows what happens. So there were definitely some clear weaknesses on the side of Toronto Ultra. And on the side of the New York Subliners, they were outslaying, but they weren't always converting that into time for long chunks of time. So that's something that they can definitely correct. Their control looked fantastic, and their S&D looks suspect, so they have to clean that up. But otherwise, I think in Respawn, I think New York will outclass Toronto just because we've seen all 4 of their players consistently performing well. But on the Toronto side, it seems like every time we see them, there's 1 player or 2 players who are having a rough map. And I think that tomorrow will be a consistency thing. If all 4 Toronto players can consistently fry through all of the maps that they play against, of course, a very hungry New York Subliner side that I think they get past them. But as it stands, with the way that they've been playing consistently, I see the Subliners walking away with this one. And that's why I have them playing in the elimination final, where I think Seattle, with all of their consistency fixes, will get through. So yeah, guys, that'll about wrap it up for me. If you're wondering what I'm thinking tomorrow with a quick recap, I'm thinking Atlanta, New York, Seattle, and then Atlanta. So yeah, guys, that'll about wrap it up for me. If you are a Faze fan like myself, I know you're happy seeing the matches today on Saturday, seeing them smoke Ultra. And yeah, I hope we can come home with another chip, bring another chip to Atlanta. We've been starved of a chip since Cold War, and we need one badly. So yeah, guys, that'll just about wrap it up for me. Hope you have a great morning, noon, or night wherever you may be on this beautiful planet. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel if you're brand new. Don't forget to share it with a friend or family member or someone that you know that likes COD. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoy all the matches today, and be sure to tune in for a recap coming at some point in the near future. And yeah, guys, that'll about wrap it up for me. Like I said before, have a great morning, noon, or night wherever you may be on this beautiful planet, and I'll catch you guys on the next video. Once again, this is Chris from Fake Sports News, and I'm signing off. Peace out, everybody.